It takes the head custodian at a school 30 minutes less time than his assistant to set up the chairs for a program in the auditorium. Working together, they can set up the chairs in 20 minutes. How long would it take each person alone to set up the chairs? In this problem, they ask us to find two things. They ask us how long it would take the head custodian alone and how long it would take his assistant alone. So we're going to need two let statements. So we're going to let the head custodian's time be something, and we'll get to that in a moment. And we're going to let the assistant's time be something else. Now, we don't want to let these be x and y. We're going to end up with a rational equation, and we don't know how to solve rational equations in multiple variables. That's not something that we've dealt with. We've not dealt with rational equations and systems of equations. This is a little bit more complicated. So what we're going to do is we're going to notice that it takes the head custodian at a school 30 minutes less time than his assistant. What that means is that if the assistant's time is x, the head custodian's time is going to be x minus 30, because it takes the head custodian 30 minutes less time than the assistant. So the head custodian's time is going to be x minus 30, and the assistant's time is going to be x. Let's set up a table to organize our information. And things are going to be a little bit different in this one. It's still going to be the same relationship between the quantities. Rate times time equals work. And we've got the head custodian and we've got the assistant. Let's look at the rates. Remember that the rate is the reciprocal of the amount of time it takes someone working alone. Now, if we look at the head custodian working alone, their time is going to be x minus 30. So their rate is going to be the reciprocal of that, 1 over x minus 30. All right, now it's getting hard. We can tell this is going to be more difficult to deal with. If we look at the assistant's rate, the time it takes them is x, so their rate is the reciprocal of that. It's going to be 1 over x. Now, if we look at the time column is always the time it takes them working together. And we're told here, working together, they can set up the chairs in 20 minutes. So the time is going to be 20 minutes for both of them. And then for the work column, we're still going to multiply rate times time. So for the head custodian, 1 over x minus 30 times 20 is going to be 20 over x minus 30. For the assistant, 1 over x times 20 is going to be 20 over x. And still the total work being done is going to be 1, because they're still doing the same job, they're just doing it together. So if we look at the work column, we know that the work the head custodian did, 20 over x minus 30, plus the work the assistant's doing, 20 over x, is going to equal the total work, which is going to be one job, one auditorium filled with chairs. And now we need to solve this. And this is going to be a more complicated equation to solve than the previous problems, because we have variables in the denominator and we have a binomial denominator. We're still going to multiply both sides by the LCD to get rid of fractions. But in this case, the LCD is going to be x times x minus 30. Let's take a look at what's going to happen on the left. We need to distribute the x times x minus 30 to both of these terms. If we look at the first term, the x minus 30s will cancel because we've got one in the top and one in the bottom. That leaves us with x times 20, which is going to give us 20x. In the second term, we notice that we're going to have x's cancel because we've got an x in the top and an x in the bottom. So that's going to leave us with 20 times x minus 30 because that x minus 30 is still going to be there. Now on the right, 1 times anything is itself, so we can ignore that 1. And if we distribute in the x times x is x squared, minus x times 30 is 30x. On the left, we can distribute the 20. So we still have that 20x out front. And then we've got plus 20x minus 600, it's 20 times 30, equals x squared minus 30. X squared minus 30x. On the left, we can combine like terms. 20x plus 20x is 40x. So we've got 40x minus 600 equals x squared minus 30x. This is a polynomial equation. It's not linear because it has the x squared. And when we want to solve a polynomial equation, we need to get all the terms on the same side so that the other side is equal to 0. Now I'm going to get all the terms on the right-hand side because I want that x squared to stay where it is. I want it to say positive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this 40x on the left by subtracting 40x on both sides. That's going to give us negative 600 equals x squared minus 70x. And then to get all the terms on the right, we're also going to have to add 600 to both sides. Oops. That's going to give us 0 equals x squared minus 70x plus 600. I'm running out of room over there, so I'm going to rewrite this over here. 0 equals x squared minus 70x plus 600. To solve this equation, we're going to have to factor the right-hand side. All right, so this is a trinomial with a leading coefficient of 1. So we're going to factor it as 2 binomials starting with x. And we're looking for 2 numbers that have a product of 600, and a sum of negative 70. Those numbers are going to end up being negative 60 and negative 10. So this factorization is going to be x minus 60 times x minus 10. If we set each of these equal to 0, that gives us x minus 60 equals 0, or x minus 10 equals 0. And if we solve these, this gives us x equals 60, or x equals 10. And we have to figure out which of these is the reasonable solution. And we can immediately get rid of x equals 10. That's not a reasonable solution. Because if x is 10, if we go up to the custodian's time, 10 minus 30 would be negative 20. And it's not possible for someone to do a job in a negative amount of time. So that just doesn't make sense. The only answer that makes sense is 60. So if we go up, the assistant's time was x, so that's going to be 60 minutes. The head custodian's time was x minus 30. 60 minus 30 is 30 minutes. And so when they ask us how long would it take each person alone to set up the chairs, we say it would take the head custodian 30 minutes and the assistant 60 minutes. And that makes sense because if it takes them 20 minutes doing it together, then working alone, it's going to take each of them more than 20 minutes. And these answers are more than 20 minutes, so they are reasonable.